people with real jobs.
Hello?
Self-employed people. Which do you want to be? This is Certifiably Unemployable. It's time to fire the boss and become self-employed. Maybe you need a push to get that business or side gig going that you've been dreaming about for years. And if you're an entrepreneur, you can listen to stories and get experience from people who've done it. Get ready to change your life. Broadcasting from the compound, this is Certifiably Unemployable, and this is Sean Dean.
Welcome to Certifiably Unemployable. I am your host, Sean Dean, and thank you once again for joining us as we wrap up 2020. We're coming to the end of the year. We have a very special guest, and we're going to be focusing today on taking that hobby, taking that passion, you might even call it a side hustle, into something that becomes profitable, which then can become a full-time income to make you certifiably unemployable. So our guest today, her name is Kristin Beale. She's a writer and an artist from Richmond, Virginia. The publication of her first book, Greater Things, launched her venture into self-employment back in 2017. Since then, she's published 2 more books, Date Me and A Million Suns, publishes a weekly comic on her Instagram page, which is at greater.things.comics, is a regular contributor to the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation blog, and is currently in production of turning Date Me into a TV show. Maybe there's auditionings coming, right? So she is a 9-time marathon finisher, nationally competing wheelchair fencer. She's engaged to be married in April of 2021, so we want to congratulate her for that. Her books and comics can be found at www.kristinbeale.com and also in bookstores nationwide, or worldwide rather. So we will make sure that we post the links to her books, to her comic, to all the fantastic things that Kristin is all about. But one of the things that I wanted to first do is welcome Kristin Beale to Certifiably Unemployable. Welcome to our show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
I was super excited to get your request to be on the show, read your story. I think your story is very important as much as we don't want to focus on the past, but when the past rounds you to become the strong person you are and makes you an advocate for, I easily could have just said, forget it. I'm going to give up. I'm going to feel bad for myself. I'm going to just sit at home and do nothing. You've obviously have taken the opposite direction and turned what happened to you a few years back into something very, very positive. So Kristin, you're in a wheelchair, right, for the rest of your life, and because of an accident. So let's talk about that first. Let's give a brief description.
Okay, so I'll get to that actually. The week before my sophomore year of high school, so the last weekend of the summer, I went to Lake Aston with 3 of my friends. Aubrey, who I knew from youth group since I was a kid. Field, a guy I met the weekend before, and I had a huge crush on him.
Right.
And then a guy that I had just seen in the hallways of school. I didn't really know him. And on the last day of our trip, we split up into 2 jet skis, where Field was driving Aubrey and Mark was driving me. So combination of driver inattention and a no-wake zone resulted in a collision of our 2 skis with Mark and I at the bottom. So Mark fell forward and died on impact. And I was turning around like, what is that noise? Watch out. And it hit me on the head, which is a traumatic brain injury, and mid-torso for a spinal cord injury. They said I was going to die. And when I didn't die, they told my parents I wasn't going to talk or breathe on my own, or I'll be a vegetable, and, this long list of things. But then I disproved all that. So they said, she's not going to feel or move below her injury level. She's stuck to a wheelchair for the rest of her life. Have a good life. And so that was in August of 2005. So ever since then, I got out of the hospital in December 13th, 2005. And I was on the plane January 1st, 2006, lots of dates, for California to work out for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, to start getting my feeling and my sensation back. And I've been back there 9 times. I've gotten stem cells in Dominican 3 times. I've, traveled the world and the country to work out and regain feeling and movement and prove them wrong on that too. And I am determined to get out of this wheelchair and get some feeling back and get some regained feeling and movement. So that's my life's
I didn't even
mission.
know that was a possibility for you. That's amazing.
Yeah. So they said that I wasn't going to be able to feel anything below, let's see, like my rib bones, my mid torso rib bones. They said I wasn't going to be feel or move anything below there. You know, you're stuck forever in this wheelchair. But with all my working out and therapy and stuff, I've gotten back, you know, a list of feeling and movement. I can crawl, I can walk with a walker, I can, you know,
That's
and
awesome.
doctors like whatever.
Yeah. Well, that, you know, the thing is you would hate to be in their position because you don't want to let somebody know that something's going to happen then it not happen. So I'm sure that they're in a very sensitive place as well with what they can and cannot say. However,
Yeah.
I am super excited for you. I mean, you've got a great attitude. You got a great smile. A lot of times you can see just all you need to see from a person within their eyes. And I can see that. So I think that's fantastic. So while this was happening, while you're going through the recovery stage, you're learning how to do all of these things that we take for granted every single day. You're learning how to do all these things over again. You realize that you have a love for writing, right?
Yes.
So tell us about that.
I returned back to school halfway through the year because my accident was right before the start of school, like I think a week away. So I returned in January and I took a creative writing class because I heard it's easy. The teacher can't really give you a bad grade because it's creative writing and he's kind of a slacker. So I took the class because I needed an easy class. And then I realized that I'm kind of good at it and I love doing it. And I have all these new experiences and perspectives that are unique that I need to get down and that maybe I would like to share, but maybe not.
Right.
So I wrote from sophomore year of high school until 2014 when I was out of college and, 2 years out of college. And I published I just self-published a book for my parents and my grandparents. Just here's 32 stories that I've written of all my experiences. Merry Christmas, the best present you'll ever get from me. And I did that and I realized that was fun. I would like to edit it more. Publishing a book is still a far off dream because who does that? That's, too ideal. But I was just kind of doing it for fun, getting it edited and working with it. And then in 2017, or I guess 16, I was approached by a publisher after sending my queries out for 2.5 years, which is a long time to do the same thing over and over to get rejected over email.
Absolutely.
And it was Morgan James Publishing, David Hancock and Morgan James Publishing. And he reached out, wanted to hear my story. I met with him the same week. I signed a contract the same week. And I quit my job a month before my book came out. So it was very much of like a trust fall because I hope this works out and I hope I can support myself. But I do not like mortgage banking and I need to get out of this position. And I'm an author now. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm going to be an author now.
So how scary was that?
It was very much diving into the deep end.
Right.
And it was scary, but I knew it was a big leap of faith, but I knew, worst case, I guess I can get another job. It's easier said than done. But it was I'm just not happy at this job and I just need to get out and I just want to do something that I love. So I'm just going to quit and try. And I don't really know what.
Right. We all have to have that happiness. We all have to have that inner peace. And I know it's a challenge when you're a writer. I have a background in musical theater and performance and auditioning and going through people telling you no, next, all right, all that stuff. When I went to college, I actually got very fortunate when I graduated, right before I graduated college in New York City, my first professional audition, I was offered a job and I had some opportunities to do some different things. So I went on tour for a couple of years, which was very rewarding, but very daunting. I mean, I was 22 weeks in a bus and truck. We would be in a different city every day, setting up our set, doing the show. And then I literally would wake up in the morning. Where am I? What's my room number? I mean, if I didn't, when I left my room, if I didn't notate my room number, I would not have any clue where to go back to when I was coming back to my room. So it was that crazy, but it was very rewarding. By the time I was 21 years old, I went through 40 states. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is that, you know, as much as you love it and as much as you have a passion for that, I realized that wasn't going to be my lifestyle, because I knew that after the contract was up here, I have to find something else now, you know? So yeah. So you then became a writer, you published your first book. And what happened after that?
So similar to you, I published my first book. I went on tour in 40 states, you know, the same. I didn't really go on tour, but the same thing as you. Right. And then the book is going to lose steam soon. I got to do something. I got to publish another book if I want to, you know, stay out of a job, stay out of an office job. And so I said, what do I know? What do I do a lot of that I could write a book about that I know a lot about of? And the answer was going on bad first dates. So I kicked it up. I joined Bumble. I went on 32 dates in 2.5 months, which is absolutely crazy. That's like a lunch date, a dinner date, different guys, like 4 dates a week. No, at that point, there was but there was very little hope for a relationship. I was just chasing the story because I was trying to make it into a comic book. I come home and I go on this bad date. I come home, I change their names, I make them into a comic. I pretty much don't have to think about them anymore, because most of them, all 32 of them, either were like overly horny, or they said something rude, or just for whatever, dating is terrible. For whatever reason, yeah. I mean, guys are just how they are, but then when they see a wheelchair, you know, I'm giving them an excuse, but I guess a wheelchair just freaks them out, and they just said weird and gross things, and I don't know. Guys,
let me ask you a question, because I want to. First thing I thought about is that when you're going on these dates, these 32 dates and these quick dates, I mean, obviously you're like, well, I'm not going to meet the man of my dreams. That's not at all what I'm going for right now. This is all about making comics and everything else. Did they know that they were like, you know, that it was just this, you know, listen, whether this works out at all, I'm going to have lunch with somebody else tomorrow. So you need to tighten up. Did they know that that's kind of how it was, or what?
No. So I guess kind of in my defense, I wasn't going saying, at the beginning, for the majority of the time, I wasn't going saying, I hope this guy's really terrible to me because I want a good comic out of it. In the end, it was like he said like he was kind of terrible, but it's cool because I have a comic. But I wasn't going explicitly the whole time for the story. So I would still, I mean, it would still be great if I went on a date and it went really well and it worked out and we started dating and he was fine. I would have accepted that too, because it's still dating. I'm just trying to find a reason to be okay with my dating not working out. So, but to answer your question, it never worked out. So I ended up going on the dates for just dates, and I had a rule for myself that I wasn't allowed to say no to a date, even though I could, you know, be talking to a guy on this app and say, oh, we don't really have anything in common. This is going to be not great. I just go on the date anyway because I'm chasing the story. So the guys didn't know, and most of them didn't find out. I had I think 5 people after the book came out, like, Kristin, how you doing? What have you been up to? And I'm like, oh, actually I published a book and you're in it. I'm sorry, I changed your name. It's fine. And those 5 people bought the book, and I think 3 of them I never heard from again after I sold them the book, which is fine. And then the other 2 liked it. But a little story, one guy who I had never heard from, I went on a date with him, last winter or the winter before. I hadn't heard from him for 12, 13 months. And all of a sudden I get an email that he bought Greater Things, my first book. So he lives in Richmond. So I went to deliver it to him, and I saw him. He was just like outside of his apartment when I drove by his house, his apartment. And I saw him and he said, what have you been doing? I said, oh, I published a book, date me and you're in it. Sorry. But he got to pick the movie, and he picked Schindler's List, which is 3 hours, 15 minutes, black and white, subtitles about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Not a date movie.
Right.
So he's, and he says, oh, cool. Bring it over to the bar tomorrow night and meet some of my friends and show me a book. I'm like, all right, great. This will probably be the last time that I talk to this guy because he's going to see his comic and not love it probably, but it's totally true. And so I brought it to him, and when I looked at it when I got home, I was like, oh gosh, I forgot to change his name. I don't know why I didn't change his name, but oops, I forgot to. So I brought it to the bar anyway the next night and brought it and showed it to him, and his friends all made fun of him, and I never heard from him again. But
okay,
yeah,
it's
wow.
Wow,
yeah,
that's a funny story. So that's hilarious. So as a side note, I want to remind the listeners right now, we do have a high rate of men listeners. However, because you're here, that's going to attract more female listeners. But the guys that are listening right now, just want to remind them that you are engaged, that you're engaged for 2021. So if they're like, wow, this girl seems like a lot of fun, we can go on a date so I could become a comic character. Might have.
I don't want to date me because I'm saying like I expose these guys.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know. I think we can like turn this into like this. This would be a funny, hilarious television show, Kristin. It would be fantastic. It'd be great. Date me or not. Right.
TV show, and it's being called Date Me. So
yeah. Oh, perfect. You're right. Yeah. Perfect. So from that point, your comic strip is on Instagram. You're getting a lot of feedback on that. Obviously, people enjoy it. What is that turning into? Because other than the TV show, I mean, what is that becoming for you? Is it a thing that you devote only a few hours a week to, or is it a full-time thing, or what is that?
So it is drawing comics and making comics is very fun for me. People say, I love my job, but I didn't really know that was possible. I thought they were just saying that until I became an author and an illustrator. So I love to make comics. Right now I have my comics scheduled out until the first week in January. So every Tuesday when they come up on Instagram, every Monday when I get in my email, that it's kind of like a surprise to me what it's going to be. But that is a unemployment kind of non-profitable hustle, I guess is
right.
How I say. I haven't made any money from it. It's just right now it's purely fun for me, and I just love doing it, and I love having the platform and being able to share my thoughts and my comics and whatever. So it's kind of serves a purpose now of keeping me on everyone's minds and entertaining my audience, but I haven't found a way to make that profitable. So that's all. The books are my money, and then the books and the articles and all the other side things I do.
So do you do any? Yeah. So the side stuff. So you fill your time. Do you do stuff for other people? Do you write for other people? Do you freelance any work at all as well?
I get paid for my Christopher Reeves blogs, which I publish about 2 a month on there. And then I do a lot of freelance proofreading and editing, which I love to do. And people pay pretty good money for it because people need proofreaders and editors.
OMG, don't we ever? Woo.
They pay good money for it, and I love to do it. It's like something I would say, I'll do this for free, but that wouldn't be smart.
Well, I might have to send you a few things because we all know that this guy needs proofreading. So.
Oh, I love to do it. So.
Well, I try to write the way I talk and the way, with my sense of humor and my sarcasm. I try to write like that, and it doesn't always come off that way. So it all depends on what I'm trying to represent, So yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that. So let's talk about the Christopher Reeve and the Dana Reeve Foundation. So what is it you do for them, and what does that encompass? What do you talk about as far as those articles?
So I publish two articles a week on their blog, and their blog is it's not strictly disability related, but Chris Reeve was obviously spinal cord injury, so it's kind of disability leaning. So of course my take and my perspective on things has a disabled spin on it, just because I can put it in my perspective. So it's mostly I try to bring in disability somehow in that, or just my personal perspective, which is easy because I love to talk about what I think about things.
Okay.
But I just published like my first article with there. They actually contacted me and they said, with your date me book, since you're an expert on dating, we'd love for you to write a dating blog about like dating with a disability. And I'm like, you obviously haven't read the book, because all my dates messed up. None of them worked out.
They were a mess.
Yeah.
So I'm not a good expert anyway.
Exactly. I'm like, at the time I hadn't met Chris yet, so I was single. So I'm like, I'm definitely not a dating expert, and nothing I did worked out. But okay, I'll write a blog for you. And then I just started I do it on like, workouts during the quarantine, or just different disability topics, or different topics that I can talk a lot on, which I can talk about a lot of different topics.
Yeah.
But it's just finding people who are willing to pay me to share my perspective, because I need to, it's kind of being unemployed or self-employed is just a constant hustle, because I need to always be bringing in the money, but it's the hustle that I love, and it's the hustle that I enjoy, and I love everything I do. So it's a good trade, other than going into the office and
and you're doing it for yourself, and it's something you're passionate about, and that's awesome. And for the record, I do want to mention that Christopher Reeve by far was the best Superman. I don't care what anybody says. These millennials will tell me differently, but I don't care, because Christopher Reeve, he was the best Superman. I love it. So with that being said, I wanted to make sure that we talk a little bit about how people can reach out to you. We got KristinBeale.com. I'm going to post that link there. So when they go to their website, or when they go to your website, what can they expect? Is there other than more information about you, are there different ways to reach out to you? Tell us what they can expect there.
When you go to my website, there's going to be a very fun and short video. I wouldn't say fun, but it's fun for me. But it's a video that tells about my accident and tells you a little bit about the story of Greater Things. So that's a good way to see me and kind of connect with me. Then there's an excerpt of Greater Things on there, and there's you can sign up for my weekly comics on there, and you can also, at the very bottom, you can click on the button to connect with me on Facebook or Instagram. But I can tell you that my Instagram is Kristin Beale or Greater Things Comics, and Facebook is Kristin Beale. So you can connect with me in all those different ways on there. But on the website, you can do excerpts and watch a video and order the book and see pictures and
cool. So we can go to your website. We can get free content with your comics all the time, because it sounds like that's not something at this point you're planning on charging for. That's 100% fed through Instagram. So we'll make sure that the links are here inside the YouTube video, as well as Facebook. And I'm going to put the links out on the RSS feed for our podcast as well. So now, Kristin, is there any advice you want to give to someone who is listening to your story and is like, you know what? I love doing this. I love doing that. Not sure how to get started. I think everybody has a different take on what their first step, and maybe just some basic advice on what they can do to take the next step, dive in, like you said, into the deep end. And it's a little scary, and it's not always easy, but it's always rewarding. So tell us, what can we do to do that?
In general, my advice is to never listen to someone who tells you that you can't do something. I understand that my doctors were in a difficult situation, and I don't blame them, but them telling me, you're in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. You can't do this. You can't do this. All that stuff was the wrong approach, or it was the right approach because it motivated me. But to never settle for a bad thing that someone tells you, because the human body is so, I guess, flexible and always able to be changed, that nothing is permanent on it. And, as long as you have the determination to do it, then you could make anything happen, almost literally anything. So just never listen to someone who tells you you can't.
I love it. Yeah. Well, I believe whether you believe spiritually or not, I know you do, because I've read more of your story. I believe that God doesn't put things in front of us that we are not able to handle. And so he allowed that accident to happen to someone like you, because he knew that you could come out on the other side of that, because not everybody has that built into them. And I 100% commend you for that. And I think it's super, super awesome. I've told my wife many times, I met my wife when we were 34 years old, and there was a short period of time that I wanted to have a child together, because I don't have my own daughter. I have a stepdaughter, and we have 2 grandbabies from her, which is a blessing, but I don't have a biological daughter. So there was a short period of time that we had talked about having a child, and she's like, I don't know. We're in our mid-30s, and she's like, but if you want to do this, you need to make a decision soon. And so we kind of toggled with it for a little while. We ended up not having a child, but one of the things that she had said was, the older I get, now we have the opportunity of having a child with a disability and so on and so forth. And I always said to her, I'm like, babe, you are the type of person that can handle that. If it were me by myself, I would be very scared for that, because I don't know if I have it built in me. Now, with that being said, I think if something like that happened in my life, naturally I would adapt, because I love people and I just want the best for everybody. However, I bring that up because I think everybody has certain people in their lives that enable them to do things that they can't do. And that's why when someone's listening to your story, they need to understand there's a reason they're listening to today's podcast. There's a reason that Sean met Kristin. There's a reason that you reached out to me, because people need to hear stories. And the fact that you were handed all you were handed at such a young age, and you took it, you owned it, you said, I'm not listening to the advice, because I know in my mind I can do these things. I can't wait to see your next step, because I think it's so touching. It's awesome. I love it.
Thank you.
So let's keep in contact for sure. Let's see what I can do to help you, what you can do to help me, because I really appreciate you being on our show. So if there's anything that we can do to assist you, let us know. And I hope to get you on the show again in the future, because you're going to have more books. You're going to have more stuff. So we'll have to talk about it.
Yeah.
You're working on some stuff right now?
Oh yeah, I got 2, which is crazy, because I went for so long with no idea for another book. I'm like, what am I going to do next? But then all of a sudden I have 2, and it's like too much and overwhelming, because I'm writing 2 books at once. It's not really possible, but I'm trying. So that's
You got this. That's right. All right. Well, Kristin, we appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you.
All right. Don't forget to leave your comments. Don't forget to let us know what your thoughts are on this topic in particular. And if you want to reach out to Kristin, you can check her out on Instagram, Facebook, as well as her website. The links are right here in the comments. And I can also connect you with Kristin if you want to do so as well. So don't forget, share, like, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Until next time.
You've been listening to Certifiably Unemployable. Ready to fire the boss yet? You're on your way. Sean has been self-employed for over 20 years. So if that's something that you want to do, something you've been dreaming about for years, Sean has all the knowledge, good, bad, and indifferent. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on Facebook and Instagram at Certifiably Unemployable. Find us on YouTube and at www.certifiablyunemployable.us.net.org and .info. Till next time, this is Certifiably Unemployable, signing off.